Hi, and you're very welcome back to episode 9 of the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. My name is Breifne Earley, and once again this week, Stephanie is not with us, and we're ably assisted by Meabh de Burca, who fills in for her yet again. Meabh, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Breifne. It's good to be back.
It feels kind of bad saying you're filling in for Steph. You're here in your own right as an experienced international player and veteran of the league. In terms of the weekend's action, plenty of games to talk about. We are going to be joined by Aine O'Gorman later in the show. But first, we might have a little look back at the games over the weekend and some really, really exciting games. We might start with your own former club. I say former club. We're not really sure where you fit into the whole landscape yet. No official retirement, but you're not with them this season. They had their neighbours, I suppose, to the south at least, Treaty United in town in Eamon Park. It was pretty much all she wrote by about 17 or 18 minutes into that game. 4-0 up. It did finish 4-1, a late consolation goal for Galway, or for Treaty, should I say. But Galway, everyone down in Galway and around must be delighted with that performance and that result.
Yeah, it's for sure. I mean, like I said there, it was just all over very quickly, unfortunately, for Treaty, but in a good way from a Galway perspective. They seemed to get all the goals, I think, within 6 or 7 minutes. So it was just, they were firing on all cylinders at once. And I suppose it was good to see the ball at the back of the net, and they're very clinical, really good finishes as well.
A bit of a worry from a Galway point of view that they didn't add to that total after such a blistering start, or is it kind of just something that's always going to happen? You're just going to drop off the pace once you kind of know, okay, the game as a competition is probably over. We've got the 3 points in the bag. But effectively, they lost the 70-odd minutes of that game. They lost 1-0 to Treaty from that point on. Is that a bit of a worry for Billy going forward?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, like you said, I suppose sometimes it can be hard when you know that the game is essentially won. With a 4-goal lead, you'd hope it would be anyway. And they just seem to maybe, I suppose, in fairness to Treaty, they seem to dig in a lot more and were far more compact after they did let in the goals. And I think Galway just kind of failed to maybe, create the chances they would have hoped for it, considering, like you said, they had such a good start. And it's frustrating, I suppose, that they didn't add to the lead even more, and completely see the game out. But like I said, I mean, that's just a testament to Treaty as well. Like they had a bad spell of, within all in the case of 10 minutes, had they, if it could have been a lot different as well. Like you said, Treaty ended up winning the last 70 minutes of the game. So from their point of view, I think they can take positives from that.
Yeah, and of course, another good sign from a Galway point of view was the goals all came from different sources. Some girls getting their first goals of the season. Lindsay McKee opening the scoring after 11 minutes, then Savannah McCarthy and Shauna Brennan opening their accounts for the season, 14 and 16 minutes each. Before that girl, everyone's talking about her within the league at the moment, Rachel Kearns, picked up a bit of an injury, did go off at halftime, which might explain a little bit of the lack of momentum. But she got her 6th of the season, 6 in 4 games. It's pretty impressive work from the Mayo player.
Yeah, it is. She's set the league alight, I think, in her first few games. Obviously, she had played with Castlebar before, but I think settling into a new team as well so quickly and just scoring goals in every game is it's a great return for her. And I think that may have been missing in the past with Galway, just to have a natural goal scorer, and I think they've definitely found that. But like you said, the massive positive the last day was that the other girls contributed with goals too, because you can't be completely reliant on one forward. And it was great to see Shauna Brennan. She was their player of the season last year, and that was actually her first senior goal, so it was great to see her get on the score sheet. And we know how threatening Sav can be from set pieces as well, so that was kind of it was good just to see that the other girls are also contributing. And Lindsay is she's well capable. She's been around the block so many times, and she's always up. Nearly almost always been our top goal scorer as well from midfield. So she had a great strike, I think, just from a corner as well. It was a great finish.
Is there a bit of a worry now that the season's starting to kind of grow a couple of games in? Obviously, the statistics that we keep on the website keeps track of the time that every player plays as well. There's still 7 girls, even after that injury to Rachel over the weekend, who've played every single minute for Galway, which it would indicate that maybe the strength and depth isn't quite developed to mount a serious title challenge, albeit they are second in the league at the moment. or third, joint second with Wexford.
Yeah, like you said, I suppose you could look at it from that perspective, but also I think we've been lacking in the past might be as well that we don't kind of keep a consistent starting 11 or close to it too. So that might be something he's looking to build on and maybe try to keep it consistent too. And I suppose if the team's doing well, obviously they didn't get the result against DLR, but aside from that, they've been doing pretty well. So it could be a case of that as well, where he's trying to keep some consistency. And but like I said, there is a lot of young girls as well in the squad, and I think maybe the fact that the under-19 and under-17 leagues haven't got up and running, that might have something to do with it as well, a little bit, in terms of once they get a few games under their belt with even the under-19s, that then they might be a bit more kind of ready to throw them in a senior game.
Absolutely. Now, two other games, very similar stories to them, very lopsided in terms of expectations going in, and that would be Peamount's visit to Bohemians and also Wexford Youths against Athlone, two sides who traditionally would be much stronger than the other coming into these fixtures. But both of them, it took a long time for the perceived stronger side to break them down. Let's maybe talk about first about the Bohemians Peamount game. Scoreless at the break. Both sides came into it nip and tuck, really, really, really tight. And again, it was maybe a 10-minute patch in that second half where Peamount just opened the floodgates a little bit, won the game. But Bohemians must be happy with the performance.
Yeah, they have to be. I mean, to keep the champions, even if you look at it from the first half, to keep it to 0-0 is a great achievement for them. I know they'll obviously be disappointed with the result and that, but like at the same time, Peamount, have that determination, and like we previously said, like they do know how to close out games. And I think from their point of view, they'll be happy they got girls on the pitch as well who hadn't had much minutes. It was great. From I suppose the Galway side, I'm biased to see. It was great to see Aine O'Gorman back after 4 years, and from all accounts, I think she had a great game. So and as well the likes of Tegan Ruddy, who had also come back from an injury. So I think, although like Steph would have said before, they didn't add to their squad too much in the off season. They had these players kind of come back from injury, and it's as if they're new players for the team. But it was I suppose it was clinical finishing as well in the end that gave Peamount the win.
Having the likes of Eleanor Ryan Doyle, Steph, and Della Doherty to come off the bench as well. Not a bad trick at any level of the game as well. Pretty demoralising when you've held them out for so long to see those caliber of players coming on and with fresh legs and really just there to do a bit of damage. Eleanor, of course, got on the score sheet herself. But Bo's plenty of green shoots and plenty of potential within that squad to really push on from that bottom of the table position they held last season. They look really good this year.
Yeah, they do, and I think they can really challenge. I'd say they'll be obviously aiming to move up the table. They've had some really positive signs already, like we saw in the first game. They managed to score 6 as well, so it doesn't seem like scoring. They may be able to score more against the perceived weaker teams in the league as well. But like I said, great positives from their side in terms of being able to keep Peamount, scoreless for so long. And I'm sure they'll just look back on it and perhaps see if the goals, from their point of view, are preventable as well. And it's definitely looking kind of like an exciting. I think all parts of the table are going to be exciting this year, but particularly that middle part where no one can really predict who's going to end up where.
Yeah, there's some really mouth-watering clashes over the next couple of weeks. We might chat about them a little bit later in the show. Going back to the second of those kind of David versus Goliath clashes, essentially, in the league this season, Wexford Youths versus Athlone Town. I don't think anybody really, given form and history, would have given Athlone a snowball's chance in hell of getting anything out of this game, but it took 10 minutes from time and a penalty for Kylie Murphy to put their one goal that settled the affair. Athlone, a couple of late discipline issues, maybe a couple of poor refereeing decisions, they might argue. 2 red cards. I think as much as losing this game, that could pose problems for them in the future with suspensions kicking in for those 2 games as well, because Fiona Owens, Myrne Devaney, both dismissed, have been 2 of their better performers this season.
That's it, exactly. Like I said, 2 quality players, and for them to be missing them, in future games, or that will be it'll be tough, especially like we were saying, against teams that are going to be around them in similar positions in the league. But it's quite a similar story, I suppose, to the Peamount Bows game, in that Athlone will have been delighted to have kept Wexford scoreless for so long, and they will be trying to build on that, because like Wexford are really like they're a good team and they're great attacking, have great attacking players too, and to limit them to only scoring from a penalty is an achievement in itself, really. And I think that alone, they'll be looking to build on it. But from a Wexford point of view, they might be disappointed that they didn't close out the game earlier and finish the chances. But like I said, it's are very, very similar in that they have a similar kind of determination, and they have a great experience of game management, like Peamount. And at the end of the day, they did enough, and all that matters really is at this stage of the season, particularly, is that they picked up the 3 points.
Yeah, I suppose looking down through the team list for Wexford, other than maybe Limerick Grant, who didn't start the match, pretty much a first choice team for Wexford. Would that be a concern for Tom Elms as he goes ahead through the season, that maybe they didn't have the luxury of maybe resting their first choice players, which Peamount did to a certain extent, and it explains the performance from them a little bit, or the nature of how tough they found it a little bit, given that they had an element of a second string outfit out on Saturday. It sounds worse than I actually mean it to be, but do you know what I mean? That they had kind of girls who wouldn't have traditionally been in their first 11. Wexford seemed to have had that pretty much out on Saturday. Is that a concern for them going forward in terms of the talent that they have available to them?
Possibly. I mean, I suppose in the past, Wexford may have had more strength and depth, perhaps, across the squad. But like I said, they probably won't be worried, as they're still picking up the points that they need. So I think, they do have, I suppose they have quality players, and really it would be only a case of if injury or something prevented a few, or suspensions were to impact the squad, then maybe I think it might become a problem. But I'd say at the moment they're probably happy enough to, like I said, to have picked up the 3 points, but also in a similar vein to Galway, to have a bit of consistency. And like I said, those two are going to clash next week, so it will be an interesting tie as well.
Yeah, of course, they do sit second in the group, or in the league table, behind Peamount, although they have a game extra played. Of course, they did lose to Peamount on the first day of the season, but since then, they've picked up 7 from 9. So they're heading in the right direction in what looks like it's going to be a much more competitive league, as we mentioned. Speaking of that, one game that probably was not one of the best to watch over the weekend, but it was definitely more like a chess game than a football game, was the clash of Cork City and DLR Waves, settled by a Jess Gleeson free kick just before the half-hour mark. Great strike from the edge of the box, just kept it low, and the keeper really couldn't do much about it. She was on our show last week, so obviously that's the effect. Maybe Aine will be looking to get her scoring boots on. She's only got one so far this season, so maybe we can inspire her to open the floodgates next week as well. Jess will be delighted with that. DLR will be happy with that. They're also on 7 points after their opening games in the season this year.
Yeah, I think DLR, they're probably I would imagine the happiest team in the league in terms of their start. Like you said there, Jess really brings a lot of quality and experience to DLR, and like I said, it was a great strike. She's kind of renowned for doing those. You always see if she's up in and around the ball, it's going to be struck, and normally it's struck well as well. So it was a great finish into the corner, but they'll be happy with that. But it was I think it was really important 3 points for them, because like you said, they'll be vying against with Cork as well to be trying to break in, and as well as Galway to be, as we keep alluding to, I suppose, trying to break into that, making the top 3 a top 4. And I think DLR are the best positioned team at the moment, just given the first few rounds of games, to be able to do that. And they'll be delighted with having got the win against Cork.
Yeah, I suppose this weekend they might even have a cheeky little glance towards second place. They play Shels this weekend. We might preview that game later in the program. But first, maybe let's go have a chat with our first guest on the show today, and that is Peamount striker, Ireland striker, needs no introduction to anybody who follows the Women's National League. 107 caps to her name, Aine O'Gorman. Aine O'Gorman, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Hi, Breifne. How are you? Hi, Meabh. How are you?
Hi.
It's been a while since we've crossed paths. I think we met at a match a couple of seasons ago, had a bit of a chat just after the final whistle. But you've been busy. You've gone into international retirement. You've come out of international retirement. You're still wearing the green of Peamount and Ireland. How's life? How's football been for you? How's everything going?
Yeah, great. I think it's obviously gone well at the moment. And yeah, I took a step back a few years ago, and the opportunity came around to get back involved in the squad and wear the green jersey, I suppose, for Ireland again. And something that I couldn't turn down. I think I'd regret it forever if I didn't. And obviously the goal was to qualify for the European Championships, but obviously that didn't come to fruition. So focus now turns to the World Cup qualifiers, and with the draw taking place on Friday.
Yeah, do you notice any major differences, I suppose, from the time you left until when you came back again?
Look, I think obviously, you'll know yourself that I suppose the setup of the international team has improved. I suppose the resources available and the setup when you're in camp has improved massively since we probably started out Meabh together all them years ago. Everything's very professional. Like the managers now are full time, which wasn't the case in the past, I suppose. A lot of the players are full time, and us here playing in Ireland, I suppose, have a what would you call it, an amateur status with a professional attitude. So I think everyone's up their game in that regard, and the platform there now is there now to perform, and I suppose qualify for that major tournament is the next big step.
Any little bit of jealousy kicking in with, I know with Julie Nelson on the show last week, would you be looking at the North and kind of saying that could have been us?
Yeah, like I think what they've achieved is amazing, and how they achieved it well. They're 14 in their group, and they've qualified for the Euros, which is massive. I know that they have 14 players, I think, that were in the squad based in Northern Ireland. So obviously they've done an amazing job. They're doing home-based training sessions every week, and I think that's something that we need to assimilate here now in Ireland as well, that we have them sessions every week as well. And as we build and give the players a chance here in Ireland that are in the squad to perform at that level as well.
Yeah, in terms of, I suppose, the club season, though, Peamount, top of the league, as probably many would have predicted. You must be delighted with how the season started. 3 games, 3 wins, and 3 games against top opponents that you'd be competing with for league titles, for the most part, Shels and Wexford in your first 2 games.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously we knew when the fixture list came out, we were going to have a really tough start to the season. So I suppose that was good. I suppose going into pre-season, that we knew that we were going to have to really, really hit the ground running and be at the top of their game. Like get trip to Ferry, Carrick Park, and the league openers is not easy. And then after that, then we were idle then, and then the international break, and then it was like another little mini pre-season, I suppose you could say. And then we played Shels and Greenock as well. So look, I don't think it was very pretty football in either of them games, but it's all about results, and I'm just delighted to get the 3 points. And then obviously went up against good bow side last weekend, who are improving all the time, set up really well, tactically astute, and made it difficult for us, and it took us over 60 minutes to break them down and break the deadlock as well. So yeah, it was a good performance, 3 goals and 3 wins from 3.
And we were just talking earlier there, me and Breifne, about I suppose the depth that can be in squads as well. And I know Steph was saying before as well how you hadn't added too much to your squad like during the season, but like I said, how I suppose good is it to see the likes of Dora and Tegan and that coming on now and really kind of, I suppose, trying to break into your starting 11.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, we've strengthened depth in the squad, and I think that'll stand by us going through the season. It's a long season. We're only 3 games in to play everyone 3 times, so that will really stand by us, and it makes training really competitive week in, week out. And it gets the best out of us as players as well. And when we go on the pitch, then we know to perform to keep the jersey as well. So it was great to see Tegan back playing 90 minutes, got a nice goal as well. And then obviously Dora was solid at the back and was ultimately the player of the match as well. So yeah, it makes it exciting. And then you have to look at our bench as well that day, and it's stacked as well. And I think substitutions that have been made this season have really made an impact. And it's like bringing on like for like and fresh legs at the time when maybe other teams are starting to tire. And so yeah, it's a huge bonus.
Yeah, myself and Meabh were also chatting about, I suppose, the number of players at certain clubs that have played nearly every minute of every game so far. That hasn't really been a problem for Peamount. There's only really 4 or 5 of you that have played virtually every minute. Yourself, Lauren, Claire, Karen, and Dervla have played most of every game. And then you're a good bit back to the next branch. So there's a lot of players playing vital parts and significant parts in games. How important is it for the likes of Peamount, I suppose, as a team to use that experience and that talent that's on the bench and give plenty of players plenty of minutes on the pitch?
Yeah, like, it's massive, I suppose. Like, you just have to suppose James O'Callaghan has a bit of a headache week in, week out, picking the starting team and when players are performing in games and performing in training as well. But that's really healthy competition, and I think that's something that you welcome as a squad. You'd rather that than be looking to the bench and thinking who can't make any subs and players getting tired as well. Like no one likes to get left out, and probably keeps you that little bit hungry as well. So look, it's massive, I suppose, and just to keep everyone fresh and alert. Like, it's a long season ahead, and to give players like Becky Watkins a start and the experience and score a great goal this weekend as well. And it's a huge talent and a really bright future. Orla came on, made her debut on the left wing as well as a good young player coming through the system too.
On a personal note, though, you do top that list, 270 minutes played out of 270 minutes. Do you feel the legs at this stage? Are you at that stage of your career where maybe you might be quite thankful for a break? Because my experience of you in squads, and we're talking a decade ago, was you were the first one there and the last one to leave. And even as soon as you arrived, there was a football at your foot and you just wanted to play. You didn't care what level it was at or who you were playing against. You just wanted to be on the pitch. Is that still the Aine O'Gorman mantra when it comes to playing week in, week out?
Yes, I don't want to rest. I don't like resting. I want to play as many minutes as I can, but obviously the manager makes a decision to rest me for the greater good of the team. You just have to accept that. I suppose be a team player and get on with it. Yeah, but look, still feeling good. I think maybe when I'm playing it, there's nothing hard. Maybe it takes me a little bit longer to recover after the game, but when I'm playing, there's no better to have a good engine and keep going and that winning mentality. I just want to win games for the team and keep collecting 3 points week in, week out.
And how do you find the switch? Obviously, positioning, again, we were talking about it there a few weeks ago, how Louise Quinn has seemed to be now a striker and you're more deemed to be a defender, I suppose, with the Irish team. But how do you find it when you then transition back playing with Peamount?
Yeah, look, I suppose I love being up front and on the wing, and I was always kind of like a striker in that centre player and scoring goals, making goals and closing in teams and pressing teams as well. So obviously when I go into the international setup, I know that I'm probably more likely going to be a full-back as well. It just takes me a little while to adjust, and then you just get into the swing of things and the flow of things. You've good players around you helping you as well. So good communication. So yeah, it's no problem adjusting in there. So now I give the set Louise up instead of her setting me up.
But like that just seems alien to me. And I spoke to, I think it was yourself, Meabh, a couple of weeks ago on the show where we talked about the fact that, because I would have had yourself and Louise back in your very early days playing together with the Leinster Colleges side, and you would have been at polar opposite ends of the field. Now it's reversed. And like, where did that come from? Because that's kind of a thing that happened. Was it under Sue or under Noel that you kind of gravitated back towards right back? And you've pretty much been there for your international career since.
Yeah, so yeah, it happened under, now to be Louise Quinn playing up front's not a permanent thing, it's just a tactical thing, I suppose. Come to the end again, just to put that straight. She's still an out and out defender. So like I remember under Sue Ronan, we went to play Bilbao, and it was kind of, we didn't have our full squad at the time, and she just said that she was going to try me out in the right back position. So I must have done okay. So I played there for a few games. I didn't get stuck there, I suppose, Sue. And then I did play a few games up front, and I remember playing out in Portugal, and I actually started up front and I scored a goal, and then someone went off injured, and then I had to go play full back for the rest of the game. But we got the win, and that's what it was all about. So just happy to be part of it, I suppose.
Would you prefer to be wearing number 9 up front, or 10 up front, or 2 at the back? Have I put you in an awkward position there?
No, up front, scoring goals all day. The glory position.
Talking about scoring goals, only one so far this season. I know we're only 3 games in. It's very, very early, but you've won the Golden Boot in this competition so often. I can't even count the number of times. You might know yourself. It's probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times in the couple of seasons.
That's a bit generous.
Probably not, but you've won it a few times. You've won it definitely more than 2 or 3 times. In terms of the overall kind of context of the league, is that a goal you set out to achieve at the start of the season? Would you give it any thought, or is it just something that if it happens, it happens? Or do you kind of say, well, I've set the bar for myself as the top scorer in the league, and now that you're looking maybe at your own teammate, Eleanor has 3, she's 2 more than you, Rachel Cairns has 6. she's a good bit ahead of you already. Does that even weigh in your mind when you're going into a game?
No, not really. I think you go into the game, focus on your task, and ultimately win performing, and the performance will take care of the results, I suppose. And yeah, I don't really think about it before the season starts. I think me and Ellie would have had a bit of banter about it last season, just towards the end. But I'd like to think we're both quite unselfish players and create goal scoring chances and score goals as well. So for me, I think it's more I get frustrated if I'm getting chances and I'm not taking them, rather than totting up my goal tally. But it's always I suppose a nice achievement to get at the end of the season. If you had a top goal scorer. But I think like the last season, I don't think our defence probably get enough recognition, and our two top goalkeepers, Nisha and Meabh de Burca as well. So yeah, it's just like I said, I think that the goal scorers take all the glory.
No, we did have a little interaction on Twitter with Eleanor yesterday about someone give her credit for being top goal scorer on the top goal scorer chart. And she's like, what about the goalkeepers? They deserve a bit of credit too. So nice to see yourself pile in on that debate as well. And of course, Nemo, top of the list. She was on the show with us a couple of weeks ago as well. I know yourself and Meabh now, I'm going to put you both on the spot because you both have done your UEFA B license together. I suppose this is a question for both of you really, in terms of what are your ambitions in coaching? Is it something you're just doing to aid your playing career, in your case, Anya, and maybe whatever might be ahead for you, Meabh? Is that something you've given thought to yet, or is it just to have it to be ready to move on to that stage of your footballing experience?
Yeah, I suppose from my side, I think I had done the kickstarts and the youth cert quite a few years ago, and I'd looked into the UEFA B a few times, but it's just the timing of it and that used to clash a lot with our games. And then when the FAI, in fairness, they put on this course that was kind of, I suppose, aimed at female only participants, and it was during the break in our off season as well. It was kind of handed on a plate to you, so it was actually made it a lot easier to pursue. And like you said, I suppose when you're playing, you're always thinking what's ahead as well. And I think it's a really good thing, I suppose, just to have there. And like I said, I think you do learn a lot as well, even when you're still playing. You can learn a lot, particularly tactically wise, I suppose, from it. And I mean, when you're an older player on a team, you're essentially you're kind of acting nearly as a coach at times to the younger players too. So I think it's definitely a great benefit when you're still playing.
Yeah, I suppose obviously it was a really good experience and a really good opportunity to get the B license and get high up, I suppose, in that coaching ladder, and a lot to learn tactically, and a lot of tactical awareness as well. But I think it's quite difficult when you're playing at a good level to balance both playing and coaching, because there's a lot of preparation and planning that has to go into coaching at a high level, I suppose, as well. But I really enjoy coaching and will occasionally do sessions for clubs and teams as well, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about, and we'll probably delve further into when I hang up them boots.
Of course, you are a PT as it stands. That's your day job, effectively, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like, so I kind of have a passion for helping people, obviously keep fit and feeling good, and coaching them in that regard as well. And I find it incredibly rewarding as well. And I really enjoy now, like, sitting down and analysing games and that aspect of it as well, and then letting it translate out onto the pitch as well. So yeah, look, we'll see what the future holds. Hopefully you can. I think now it's the UEFA B Elite, when that comes around, and then onto the UEFA B and see where it takes us.
How did you both find the actual process, though? Because I suppose I would have done my UEFA B 10, 15 years ago now, and it's a very different process now. Why am I right in saying that was the course that the FAI put on for free for women footballers and members of the Women's National League, which I think was a huge initiative, and it's great to see people who maybe have been outside the loop as a collective, very few women's people doing those UEFA B courses. You could probably count them on one or two hands who've done them in the country. So to have a glut of people come through that process so quickly together from a community point of view is fantastic. But the actual process of doing the course and I suppose the camaraderie and the network you build up through it, how did you find that?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, there was a lot of girls, I suppose, your peers in Ireland, and it was great just to make those connections and I suppose learn from each other a lot. Like, the tutors were great in terms of the actual, the theory side of it and the obviously on the pitch, but then off the pitch as well. I think just making bonds with the girls and kind of learning and seeing how they did things. I suppose we watched a lot, like a lot of ourselves coaching, you know, and others coaching. So you did pick up things, and I suppose there was a lot of group discussions and that, and you know, to see where we could all improve. So from that point of view, I think it was really good. And I mean, my experience anyway would be any other coaching course I've been on, I'm probably the only girl on it. So from that side as well, I think a lot of the girls there, the women might have found it easier as well to interact, and I suppose to give their opinions when you're surrounded by like-minded and similar people, I suppose.
Aine, you're well used to being, I suppose, in what would be traditionally male-dominated fields, particularly in broadcasting. I know you've done a couple of games at RTE where we'd be more traditionally used to seeing men commentating and analysing games. Did you find the same in terms of your own, I suppose, attitude towards how the course was presented when it was all women on the course? Was it more welcoming? Was it less intimidating maybe than being surrounded by a room full of men, or does that even bother you anymore?
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me usually, to be honest. Football's football. It's whether you're a man or a woman involved in the game. It's a game of football at the end of the day, I suppose. Yeah, but look, it was a great atmosphere, and it was great to meet so many people and create networks with so many people, ex-players, players playing in the game, and people coaching in the National League and involved in the FAI as well. So it was a really good opportunity from that. We had some really good external people come in and give presentations. I think the tutors are great at guiding us through obviously the theoretical stuff and the tactical stuff as well, and getting all them assignments together and getting their assignments in and preparing us, I suppose, as for your continuous assessments.
Yeah, I suppose if we take it back to your playing career though, Aine, and of course the Irish career resuscitated recently thanks to I suppose the opportunity to get back involved with the team under Vera. You mentioned the World Cup qualifiers. You're at that age, unfortunately, in your career where people will ask you what's next. Are you going to be hanging around for long? What's the story? Is that the plan? Is the World Cup qualification the whole campaign in your plan? Will we see you in an Ireland jersey past that? Is this your last crack at a qualifying campaign, or has that even thought come into your head? Because I know you keep yourself in great shape, so could we see an Aine O'Gorman playing to, I don't know, mid-30s, late 30s, or where are we?
I don't know, like, I suppose it's how physically and mentally you can keep going as well, I suppose. I always take, I think Meabh might even say the same, like you kind of take a campaign as a block, like so whether it's a European campaign or a World Cup campaign, and that's kind of your sole focus. So you don't really look too far beyond that as well. But I suppose yeah, the numbers are clocking up in the background as well. So that is something that's deep in my mind. But every campaign you go into to give it 100% and as a team together, and hopefully we'll get a good draw now on Friday, and we can really start building towards that.
Anybody you'd particularly like to avoid in the draw on Friday, or anyone you might particularly want to get?
Like, I suppose it's always a tough one. I think we're quite renowned for drawing Germany, aren't we, as a top seed? Played them quite a lot actually in the past as well. So look, I don't really mind. It's I think all the teams in around the world and in Europe are always growing and developing as well, and like ourselves here in Ireland as well. So it's going to be very competitive, and you just have to, I think, take a lot of encouragement, I suppose, from what the girls did in Ireland going into fourth seeds and getting into that playoff and qualifying for the Euros as well. So I think if everything comes together well, and the performances, and I think something we can learn from the last campaign is getting them results in them pressure situations in them pressure games, and something that we can learn from and bring into the next campaign.
Yeah, we did talk to Steph a few weeks ago about some of the youngsters coming through the league and through the home group, the home international group that do meet on a regular basis. Who has caught your eye from that group in over the last couple of weeks, and maybe you think could be someone that we will be seeing a lot of in Ireland jerseys over the next decade or so?
Yeah, like I think obviously Emily Whelan and Ella Malloy, Shelburne and Wexford player, did exceptionally well in the last camp as well, and I think Emily's pace and created chances in that Denmark game as well, and And she'll only learn from that experience and being in camp as well. And is a massive talent. That is Ellen Malloy. I think she's probably a nightmare to mark. A great dribbler at the ball, and it's something that's great to see because I don't think there's enough tricky players, I suppose, coming through at the moment. So yeah, that's something that's really encouraging, and obviously the future is quite bright for her. I like Aoibhinn Clancy that plays down in Wexford and centre mid as well, a good player. Weirin, who plays for Athlone, is another really good strong centre midfielder through. And I don't want to say single them out because there's a lot of good young players coming through, and you have like Ava Mahoney down in Cork who's starting to come into her own this season, who has been around for a while but still quite a young player as well. So look, the future's bright, and for me I just hope that these players when they finish school or whatever, if they need to stay here for college, the opportunity and the platform's here for them to be in an elite environment, I suppose, and getting them extra sessions that we talked about, that they can form the international setup. Obviously, if they will get opportunities probably to go abroad, and whether that's the right opportunity for them or not. But they are becoming more plentiful, I suppose, at the moment.
In your own experience, you did the course in Carlow, and then you took an opportunity to go to Doncaster for 2 seasons before deciding it wasn't really for you, maybe, and coming back to play with Peamount, UCD Waves, and back to Peamount again while you worked full time. Is that something you would recommend to these girls, or does everybody have to kind of take their own route, their own path, whether that's maybe a scholarship to the States or a professional contract somewhere around Europe? What would you be advising the average, and I know nobody really fits the full average, but the average player coming through in that situation?
Yeah, like I think it's obviously important, and I think Meabh will probably agree with me that when you finish school, I suppose getting your third level education always has to be in the back of their mind, and something that you should pursue wherever you go, whether it be to be a professional footballer to America. But then that's my point, that people are going to get good opportunities to go abroad, and if they want to take them, that's great. But if they don't, and they want to stay here and they want to pursue their education, and can we provide them with that opportunity to stay here, and then therefore it will strengthen our league as well. And that's something that I'd like to see, obviously, our league going to some sort of direction as a semi-professional. And I think this year's been a huge step in that, I suppose, with Airtricity coming on board, sponsoring both leagues, and we can see the exposure. And even with the likes of yourself that the league is getting this year. So it's up to us as players then to keep the standards high, keep the standards in their club high, and push towards that really professional environment.
Yeah, like you're saying there, the standards, would you have noticed, I suppose I've noticed it myself, but the difference is, I suppose, when the league first started out, and I know there's a lot of controversy over like referees not turning up, that type of thing, versus now, like, have you seen the progression within the league?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think obviously the first year the league started, I actually think that was probably quite successful. But yeah, but maybe it didn't really take off from there. I suppose it maybe stayed a little bit stagnant for a while. But I think this year is kind of being rejuvenated. And look, there has to be something for our young players, like the 17s and 19s now coming through. Obviously, we'll have that talent pool who playing in National League setup already coming through. So that's always gonna benefit us as well, and they have to have something to aspire to and stay in the game and keep enjoying their football and at the highest level they can.
Before we let you go on, we are running out of time, but before we let you go, we always give Steph a bit of a ribbon about that goal. But of course, she made a sow's a leather purse out of a sow's ear of a pass, because that was not one of your finest crosses. How often do you hear about that and your involvement in that whole experience, now that Steph's not here to defend you?
Yeah, look, I think I always get, if I go around and tell someone I play football, they're like, oh, do you know that girl that scored that goal? I'm like, yeah, that's Stephanie. Like, she's one of my good friends that I obviously met through football. But I think you'll probably know, like, through growing up, that me and Steph always kind of had a relationship on the pitch, I suppose, that we just knew each other's movement. I'll tell her I'm the legs behind the operation, and she got all the glory. So yeah, look, it wasn't one of the finest moments. I think I just was instinct to look for Steph and switch across in, but look, it was she made a miraculous recovery.
But the important thing is, when you tell them that you know them, do you tell them you're the girl that gave her the ball?
Yeah, sometimes. Just for fun.
Well, listen, Aine,
I actually passed her the ball that day.
Yeah.
Claim to
Listen,
fame.
she did return the favor in the cup final last year, so we can't really falter. Aine, as always, it's a pleasure to catch up with you. Best of luck. It's been a great start of the season, and the best of luck to you this weekend, and also to all your teammates over the course of the season. I'm sure we'll be talking to you and your teammates again through the rest of the season. So thanks for dropping in. Enjoy training.
Cool, thanks, Breifne. Thank you. Thanks, Meabh. See you soon.
Nice.
Look.
Aine O'Gorman there, an absolute legend of the League of Ireland. She's been a key part of numerous teams, mainly Peamount, and of course a brief period at UCD or DLR Waves, or I think it was UCD Waves during her time there. As someone who's played against her and faced her many, many times, Meabh, how vital is she to Peamount in terms of what she brings in experience and ability?
Yeah, she's really vital, like you said. I mean, her intensity and her just determination, I suppose, it stayed with her throughout her career. I mean, I suppose I remember back when I first got in the league, and they had Aine on one side and Julianne Russell on the other, facing us against Galway, against UCD. And, you know, our game plan would always be to try to negate the two of them on the wings. And like that, Aine's really, you know, she's, I suppose, kept up the standards all the way throughout her career. And yeah, it's great to see, and she's been leading the way really with Peamount over the last year, and I say she'd be hoping to do that for many years to come.
Equally Galway, and I'm sure from a Galway point of view, seeing Julianne Russell wearing a blue of a UCD or a Dublin side as well against Galway. Let's move on to the weekend's fixtures, and we have a full round of games played over Sunday and Saturday this weekend. We mentioned Treaty and Peamount. That game, of course, takes place on Sunday. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start maybe again with your own side. Galway, they make the journey down to Ferrycarrig Park. Wexford Youths. This should be a fairly even game. Both sides in the shake-up to maybe go to top spot, at least for 24 hours. So plenty on the line here for both teams.
For sure, yeah. I think on paper, Wexford are definitely the favourites. But, you know, Galway have had a good win against Treaty last time out, so I think they'll be full of confidence. So one major factor is always the trek down to Wexford. It's a long trip down, and I think they've brought the kickoff forward as well. So it's even more of a difficult, I suppose, task to go down and try to get a result. But I think it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be very tight. But I think, you know, hopefully Galway can get the job done, and it'd be great to see them, you know, really compete, and whether to get 3 points would really bring them on. And like I said, try to get closer to that really challenging the top three. And I suppose these are the games that will really, I suppose, the season will be judged by, because those are the results, or these are the games that you want to be getting results out of.
And of course, I suppose two other teams who face off on Saturday, who also, depending on the result in your game, could be top of the league on Saturday evening. Shows how close the league is this year. 5 teams within a single game of the top of the table. Shels and DLR, two Dublin sides, they know each other quite well. There's been a bit of back and forth between the two teams at senior and underage level this season. I know there's coaching staff changes between the two sides. There's players, we talked about Jess Gleeson, Kate Mooney also. She won't be part of this now, she's out injured. But there has been plenty of movement between the two sides. What do you think that game is going to be like? Because for me, I think it's a real opportunity for DLR to show a sign of intent of where they see themselves this season. People are putting them in that 3rd or 4th place battle. Here's a chance for them to really even push that a notch to 2nd or 3rd place.
This game is really, it's going to show what DLR, I suppose, how their season in a way is going to pan out, because like you said, there's been a lot of talk about DLR this time out, and they have had a really bright start, but this game will determine a lot. I think Shels will be full of confidence, particularly playing at home as well. I think Shels will feel that they'll have the upper hand, but like you said, there's a kind of added intensity and I suppose a bit of spice to the game, in that a lot of players, you know, former players will be returning to their previous club and that, so it'll add another dimension to it. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the results, or how the game pans out, and to see, like I said, to see can DLR actually, in a similar way, I suppose, to Galway this weekend, come in to see if they can really, you know, make an impact on the top 3.
Yeah, Jess Gleason, to be fair, we had her on the show last week and she talked about how it would just be another game to her, that she got that hoodoo off her back before the season started in a preseason game. Interesting to see if that's actually how it pans out at the weekend. But as I said, they have the chance to go top of the table, both sides, for at least a couple of hours. And then Wexford and Galway will have the chance to leapfrog them based on goal difference. But finally, on Saturday evening at Lone Town and Cork City, both sides looking to really get their first wins of the season. Been reasonably solid performances from both sides through the campaign so far. While the results haven't gone their way and they haven't managed to get a win in the win column yet, it's been pretty decent performances from both sides. And I think if the suspensions weren't in play for Athlone based on the 2 send-ins off last week, you'd have to fancy them at home. But it's going to be a fairly even battle this weekend, and Cork will be looking to come up and take all 3 points home with them.
Like you said there, Will, I think it's going to be very even. The send-ins off will, I think, have probably, unfortunately, may have a negative impact for Athlone, especially when there's 2 quality players that are going to be missing. And obviously Cork are going to try to take advantage of that. And I think both sides will be disappointed, like I said, in terms of the results, not so much the performances, because both have actually been quite solid, but just lacking the, I suppose, the final the points on the board as such. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a tight one. If I was to call it, I would say that Cork might edge it out, because I think they've been, I suppose, nearly due a result at this stage, because they have put in performances that have been worthy of more than what they've got for them. So I think Cork might edge it, but Athlone they're a dogged team as well, so they wouldn't be you couldn't write them off too easily.
Yeah, plenty of your former Galway teammates in that Athlone side as well. I know 2 goalkeepers, a couple of outfield players as well. How have you thought that they've handled the start of the season, despite only not managing to get a win yet? Have you been impressed with maybe the improvement that has been fairly obvious with them?
I have, yeah. They have really, I suppose they've added to the squad, and I think there is depth there that wouldn't have been there last season. They are at still a really early stage, in the club's development. So I think, can't expect too much from them too early. But at the same time, I know that they're, they will be themselves. They'll be hoping to push on and to really, make an impact in the league this year in particular. And like you said, they have added like really quality players. Lots of my former teammates are there now, and they're really, I think they'll bring experience as well to it, and just to try, I suppose, that every game they're going to make it hard and difficult to be beaten. And I think that's the main thing they'll be focusing on this season, is to be hard to break down, and they have proven that as well in the season so far.
Now, last week we had 2 fairly big performances from teams that found themselves in a David versus Goliath situation that we talked about at the top of the show. This weekend, Treaty United host Peamount. We spoke to Anya about it briefly in that chat, but realistically, it's very hard to see anything other than a Peamount victory in this. Even if they played their second string, Treaty just looked to be a little bit off the pace this year. Peamount flawless so far this season. Can you see anything other than a Treaty win in this fixture? Sorry, other than a Peamount win in this fixture.
I can't really, but at the same time, like you said, sometimes when teams haven't been performing maybe as well as they would like, then there can be a slight rebound effect as well. And I think, the loss in Galway will have hurt them. And, at times then that can lead to the following game, then the team actually, spring into life as such. And I do think there's a bit more in the Treaty tank that we just haven't seen yet. I think, they're again a relatively new team, and they have new structures in place, and that all takes time to kind of embed, I suppose, and impact how the team performs on the pitch. And I think at times they've been a bit unfortunate, like I did say last week. Apart from that 10-minute spell, they went toe to toe with Galway, and like we were already saying, Galway then are hoping to go toe to toe at the other end of the table. So it just proves, I suppose, this year that the team, from top to bottom in the league, which we may see, at the weekend, there may not be as big a gap as there would have been in previous years. But again, I mean, I would expect that Peamount would have enough to overcome Treaty, but it'll be still an exciting game nonetheless, I'd imagine.
Yeah, interesting to see just how many of his second string James Cannon puts out on the pitch over the weekend. I think I expect to see a lot of different names maybe on the starting 11 than we've seen so far in the season. Wow. Okay. Meabh, as ever, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have you again next week on the show. And Steph has a little bit of a work commitment for the next couple of weeks, so isn't going to be with us, but we'll be back in the middle of May. In terms of the season ahead, in terms of the weekend ahead, which games are you going to watch? Obviously, you probably keep an eye on the Galway game, but anything else catch your attention or catch your interest?
Yeah, I think the Shelburne DLR game will be exciting, especially for neutrals watching the league as well. I think that one will, like you said, it'll really determine, I think, whether DLR can keep pace with the top teams or not. And, you know, I still expect, I think maybe we haven't seen as well the complete best out of Shelburne to date or up until this point in the season. So, you know, they're due, they're always, you know, good up front and they have a lot of firepower. So I think we're due to see them, you know, shooting all cylinders at some stage as well this season. So who knows if that's going to happen this weekend or not, but that's definitely a game I think I'll be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I think Shels, I know Peamount are top of the table, but Shels to me have been the nicest side to watch in terms of the football they play and the brand of football they play and the players that they have to put that into action. So I think we haven't seen the last of them in the title challenge. And I know it's 1-0 Peamount in terms of those clashes between the sides directly, but I think it's going to be a long, long way to go. And as you mentioned, those gaps between the teams in the league, each positions tightening up in terms of the ability, in terms of the standard that they've raised, and I think we're going to be surprised more and more and more as the season progresses. Meabh, thanks very much for joining me. To Aine, who joined us as well, always great to have her company on the show, and we'll be chatting to you again next week. Meabh, talk to you then.
Thanks very much. See ya.